Bonnie Danahy, PhD student, University of Cumberland's Information Governance course, final project, Local Government Privacy Policies. Local government agencies have a responsibility to be both transparent with their data and practices, as well as to protect the privacy of its constituents. These two requirements can be in direct competition with each other and rely on agencies to create privacy policies, defining how they will use and share the data that they are the stewards of. By looking at 3 different agencies, I will compare and contrast their privacy policies. Government data. Americans want more control over their data, but little is being done at the federal level to update regulations for the digital age. This forces the responsibility for privacy policies to the state and local level. Not only do government agencies have the responsibility of being a collector and user of data, but they also have the role to protect their citizens for organizations collecting their data. In an industry where transparency and process and decision making include the use of tax dollars has become the norm, not the exception, it can be difficult to manage this balance between transparency and privacy in local government. So how do local government agencies manage their privacy policies? In order to answer this question, I shall use the following methodology. Conduct a literature review of research on existing topics for local government privacy policies. Review of existing online privacy policies for 3 local government agencies. And conduct a qualitative thematic analysis of that research. In my research, I found 4 key themes to a successful local government privacy policy: public data collection, public data usage for youth or minor data, and policy and the technical gap. Each one of these can be seen in the example local government agencies I analyzed. The County of Durham, North Carolina has a single-page privacy policy on its website that covers the use of their site and the information collected. Their policy focuses on 3 key areas: limiting the scope of their policy, addressing how and when data is collected, and data sharing with authorities. The scope of the policy is limited to their website and does not cover other entities that the Durham site may link to. It explicitly states, Durham County government doesn't control the government or commercial agencies whose sites and applications can be accessed from their sites. The policy clarifies that it is only collecting personal data when required for a business transaction, shares that data with third-party vendors when required for service, and collects aggregate data on site visitation. In addition to noting that the data collected on the site is public information, the policy also states that the Durham County fully cooperates with law enforcement and judicial authorities. The County of Durham's policy is concise and to the point, with language that is intended to both inform users of the site and cover the agency in its use of data. The County of Mecklenburg, North Carolina has a more inclusive privacy policy than Durham that is broken down into the following categories: purpose, automatic collection of certain information, if you send us personal information, privacy of email lists, length of time data will be saved, The County of Mecklenburg, North Carolina has a more inclusive privacy policy than Durham that is broken down into the following categories: purpose, automatic collection of certain information, if you send us personal information, privacy policy of email lists, length of time data will be saved, how to unsubscribe, security, use of cookies, public records, children, and opting out. This is not just a more comprehensive policy, it is also written in a more natural language for the intended audience of site users. Like Durham, Mecklenburg's policy contains language to separate external sites linked from their site within their privacy policy. Their policy explicitly highlights what type of information is gathered and aggregated, as well as how the data is used to collect demographic information on site usage. Mecklenburg's policy details further the types of data you could be providing, response to surveys, response for service, etc., including details on what to expect and how the county uses and for how long the data is stored. An interesting inclusion in their policy is a section on minors. Mecklenburg's policy specifically states that no information specifically submitted about minors, but if the information is collected, it will be handled as an adult's information will. The County and City of San Francisco has the most detailed privacy policy of the three. Its policy relates to its open data site where information and training are shared on sfdata.com. In general, the policy is more formal and covers more areas than Durham or Mecklenburg. In addition to having the same general principles as the other two counties for policy coverage, their site only, and collecting aggregated usage data, SF policy also has a disclaimer that they are not liable for actions taken or omissions made from reliance on the content herein. This is there. If we didn't write it, it doesn't mean that it's not covered clause. San Francisco has specific language stating that they do not give, share, sell, rent, or transfer information to third parties without consent. Their policy also includes an accessibility section that discusses how their site was designed to serve the largest part of their population base based on census data and the making of accessibility options to their site. San Francisco also specifically states that the policy is a living and breathing document and the user should check back to see if this policy is updated. Based on the literature review and the three policies analyzed, three themes emerged. The first theme is the disclaimer for external sites. All three policies had a section that specified that the county could only be responsible for its own content and not any site or application that was linked from its site. This allows the counties to cover themselves in case any information is gathered and used from a third-party site linked from their sites. This includes other government or commercial agencies. It's important to include this in the privacy policy as a clarification for the scope of control an organization has. The second theme that emerged is qualifications for information gathered. All three policies, although to varying degrees of detail, include a section on their information that is gathered from visitors to their site and what the information is used for. All stated that aggregated data is used to examine who is using the site, and personal information is only collected with consent to complete county business. All three also stated that the information is shared with third parties only when required to complete the service provided by the counties. This is an important clarification as most government organizations contract with third-party partners and vendors to meet the business needs of their community. While the county most likely has an agreement in place with those third-party entities for confidentiality, it is important that in the privacy policy, the visitors to the site understand that their information could be shared. The third theme is localization. Each site also had an extra component that brought an interesting inclusion to their privacy policy. Durham's policy stated that it fully cooperates with law enforcement on providing of data. While this may seem like a given that a government agency would cooperate with the authorities, it's an inclusion in the privacy policy that gives concrete resolution to the idea. Mecklenburg County includes details as to collecting information from minors. This is an important inclusion considering the number of services county provide to minors as well as the accessibility minors have to the internet. San Francisco's policy included a section on accessibility. While it doesn't seem like a natural inclusion into a privacy policy, it serves a purpose to identify the accessibility options of their site and acknowledging that sites are now accessed through other means besides desktop browsers, such as mobile or text-only devices. In conclusion, while certain key components need to be considered and included in a privacy policy for local government, such as disclaimers to define scope and collection and usage of the information gathered, there is also a lot of room to include principles that are important either to your community or to your site content. While the size of the organization may have led to a more comprehensive and inclusive policy, that does not necessarily mean that it is more sophisticated, mature, or more successful in conveying ideas to its audience. While Mecklenburg is the middle in size and breadth of the policy, its choice to use a more natural language approach speaks to how policies need to communicate to not only cover the legal and technical aspects of the privacy policy, but also need to be in a language that the users can understand.